Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Muslim Institute's series of talks on Hazrat Faridu Attar's The Conference of Birds. Today we are going to talk about how the birds, when they decide to set out on the journey, how they start making different excuses. Their enthusiasm wanes, they become afraid, and they come up with different kinds of excuses. Each of the birds represents a different kind of human weakness. So, in order to counter their petty excuses, the hoopoe, who is also a symbol of the perfect spiritual master, explains away their fears and encourages them, gives them hope. The birds, they want to know as to why should they set out, embark on this hazardous journey that is so long, so arduous. What is the connection between them and Simorgh? Simorgh, that is a mythical bird and is representative of God in this Masnavi. And the hoopoe bird explains to them their relationship with Simorgh and who Simorgh is and why they should make a quest for Simorgh. So he says, endure this journey, take up heart, gear up your spirits, and once you go through the hazardous, perilous journey, you will meet the gracious king. Our king will greet you as his honored guest. So right in the beginning of the poem, this long poem, Hazrat Faridu Attar gives hope. This is a very optimistic view of a human sojourn on this earth. And this is, you see, this is very uplifting. And this looks forward to the end of the poem, where the birds finally accomplish their task and get to the fabulous palace of the king, the mighty king Simorgh. And note the word that our king will greet you as his honored guest. So this God, he is very gracious. He will open up his arms to meet these weak creatures. This is the compassion, the mercy, the love of God, who has created the world in the spirit of love. So hoopoe asks these birds, how long will you persist in these petty concerns of this transient life? Escape your vicious nafs tyranny. So in order to embark on this journey, you have to get rid of the hold of the lower self, nafs. Whosoever can evade the nafs transcends this world and as a lover ascends. Set free your soul. So for Hazrat Faridu Attar, he sets up, you see, a paradigm in which freedom, true freedom, constitutes in being liberated from the desires of this material world. So he said, liberate yourself. True freedom, true liberty constitutes in submission to God. And once we free ourselves from the vanities of life, from the temptations and desires and fears of the world, then we ascend, then we make an upward movement. Step out along our sovereign's royal way. This is the royal way. The path to God is the path of love. And this is the royal way. And that is why you see Sufis, they are likened to royal falcons. Hazrat Sultan Bahu compares himself to a royal falcon, because this royal falcon is one who rests on the wrist of the royal king, the sovereign of the world, Almighty Allah. And hoopoe says, we have a king beyond Kaf's mountain peak. So this king, Simorgh, that is a mythical bird, in Persian fables, in Persian imagination, in Persian popular literature, it is a symbol of Allah Almighty. And the mountain, Kaf, is far away. That is, God transcends this spatio-temporal world. God is transcendental. God is beyond human reach. Yet, the paradox is that He is always near to us, though we live far from His transcendent majesty. So this means that God is both transcendental and immanent. God lies within us as well. So this is a journey away from this material world, and this is also a journey to the core of our heart, for God resides within us. As God Himself says in the Holy Quran, that I'm nearer to you than your jugular vein. So God is both immanent and transcendental. And this also brings us to the beautiful realization that God is not someone who is very remote. He is not the other. He can be reached through love. So this is one of the pervasive themes that is introduced right in the beginning of the Masnavi, and it is reiterated throughout the poem that with love, God can be reached. Love is the only condition, passionate, intense love that will make us gallop along this path which is the path of love. And then Hazrat Fariduddin Attar, in the voice of the Hooper word, goes on to explain the mystery of God. He says that the Simorgh, that is a symbol of God, He reigns both worlds and no one shares His throne. Unlike the worldly kings you see, who are always squabbling with each other and who have rivals and competitors, there is no rival to God. Allah Almighty is the only God. La ilaha illallah. There is no God but God. This is, you see, the Sufi interpretation of the Quran. And we have to realize that Sufi literature is drowned in, immersed in, embedded in the Holy Quran and Sunnah. It is not a deviation from the Quran and Sunnah. Hooper says that Simorgh's power is not shared by anyone. He is alone. He reigns in undisturbed omnipotence. God is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, bathed in the light of His magnificence. No mind, no intellect can penetrate the mystery of His unending state. So here is another, you see, feature of God, that God is beyond human imagination. Philosophy is one of the lowest modes of human knowledge. Positivism and empiricism, these are lower forms of knowledge because they are based on sensory perception, they're based on logic and intellect, whereas God cannot be comprehended. God is beyond human imagination, God is beyond human understanding. God cannot be explained in terms of intellect or logic. And God is infinite. When He says the mystery of His unending state, God is immortal. God is infinite. And then He goes on to say that no mortal purity can describe or name Allah. There are 99 beautiful names of Allah in the Holy Quran, but they're not sufficient to explain infinitude of Allah. Their soul and mind bewildered miss the mark. God and His majesty is ineffable. It cannot be encapsulated in words. It cannot be described in words. Words are limited. And as it is said that if all the oceans were to be converted into ink, even then, that ink would fall short of describing the infinitude of God. God is infinite. God is inexhaustible. So human beings can only be dazzled, bewildered by Him. No sage can understand His perfect grace. No seer can discern the beauty of His face. And that is why it is said that even the prophets on the day of judgment, they will confess their inability to understand the beauty, the majesty of God. His creatures strive to find a path to Him, and that is important. Though He is beyond human comprehension, yet human beings must strive to find Him. For He has, carved a path for us. He has instilled His breath in human beings. He has breathed His soul into human beings. And therefore, human beings are programmed and destined to find Him. And in that lies the zenith, the glory of human beings. The decision to find God. That is what lends wings to human beings, otherwise who would remain in this impoverished condition on earth. So do not imagine that the way is short, but the way is there. And there are people, the perfect spiritual masters, the Shaykh, who is there to guide you along the path. Because God wants you to walk along the path, not just walk along the path, but gallop along the path with the power of love. Love is the mighty, aid on this path. So He says, renounce your soul for love. Sacrifice your nafs, your life, your honor, everything for Allah. Renounce your soul for love. So God is love. Hupo. He goes on to explain the mystery of the creation of this universe, how the world was created, why the world was created. And he gives a beautiful description of the purpose of creation in terms of the fable of the Simorgh. The mystery of God cannot be explained in terms other than images and metaphors and symbols, because God is a mystery. So poets and Sufis and mystics of all the religions, they have to resort to the use of images, symbols and metaphors to talk about dark truths, about the mystical enigmas. And he says that a long time back, the Simorgh first appeared in China. It was a moonless night, and that was the first time when the Simorgh let a feather float down through the air. I will repeat. He, that is the Simorgh, let a feather float down through the air. That is, God created the world deliberately. As the Simorgh let the feather, that is the Simorgh himself deliberately let a feather float down the earth. So this world is not a chance collocation of atoms. God does not play at dice. This is not just, a chance creation. There is a design. There is a purpose of human life. And then throughout the world, men separately conceived an image of its shape. And God, when He manifested Himself in different forms. There were different religions. and there were different clans and nations, and each nation and each religion conceived God according to its own perspective. This is the principle of unity in diversity, the principle of unity in multiplicity, that how God created the world and there were multifarious forms, there were multifarious images, there were many religions. The beauty of the creation of the world is that God in each heart instilled His love. As He says, this is a sign of Him, and in each heart there lies this feather's hidden counterpart. So this is, you see, a poetic way of saying that God's love inheres in human hearts. It is dormant, and it is for human beings to wake it up, bring to the fore this love which was implanted in human heart by God. So he says that Simorgh's feathers hidden in counterpart lies in each heart. But since no words suffice, what use are mine to represent or to describe this sign? And then Hooper says, and there we can, you see, find Hazrat Faridu in Attar's voice in Hooper's voice. The two voices merge, and Hazrat Fariduddin Attar speaks in the voice of Hooper. He says, this is a mystery that cannot be explained in words. Words are not sufficient, and I am not able to explain this mystery in words, to represent or describe this sign, that is this sign of God. Nevertheless, the way is there. So let us explore the way. And when the birds listen to him, they're enthusiastic, but then as they ponder on the journey's length, they begin to hesitate. Their ambitious strength dissolves, and each bird comes up with a different excuse. And in the next talk, we will see how the birds try to evade going on this journey. And with this, I conclude. Thank you so much.